Okay, guys, you've just done an exercise where we're looking through these statements. Hopefully, managed to have a discussion on them. Um, Things we're trying to actually analyse are things like how do people communicate? So the example given was the speed of a car is 77 kilometres per hour. You wouldn't say that to most people in conversation unless you were trying to get out of a speeding ticket. So to a friend, you'd say, "Oh, the car was doing about 80 kilometres an hour." It's these statements we would use with abouts. So would you turn around to a friend and say a shirt costs $48? Probably not. You might say $50. Number of pupils in the school. If you're talking to your parents, you probably keep using this word about and say there's about 800 pupils in the school. If you're telling your friend the cost it wasn't a taxi, yeah, their distance might have said 3,473 tenge, but you would probably turn around and say about 3,000 or 3,500 tenge. You'd make the choice between those two. If the time now was 12 p.m., are you going to say 12:12 to your friend? You're more likely to say something like 12:10 or possibly 12:15, depending on your needs. The mass of a car is 2,353 kilograms. You're less likely to say, you're likely to either say 2,000 kilograms or 2,400 kilograms, depending on the circumstances. You're trying to give a number that's just about the right size. So for conversational purposes, we often don't quote more than one or two numbers at the front, and then make sure the number's about the right size. If you were telling a boss your age is 27.25 years, and you put that on your CV, they're going to probably say, yes, we're not employing this person. It's overly precise. Most people would say that at that point their age is 27. The interesting one is this bank interest with a bank manager. You want to be quite accurate, but most currencies they have a major unit and a minor unit. Most minor units are hundredths. So with the bank manager one, what you'd like to be able to do is say my interest, or the interest I calculated. You're less likely. You're not going to say about. You're going to say what it should be. So it's $123, and by convention with most money, you quote two decimal places if you want a relatively accurate number. So in that case, it'll be 23. Look at the 7, round up to 24 cents. So this is what we're talking about with the rounding. Is it appropriate for you to know exactly the last digit? If you were trying to, so the sorts of things we're talking about is, I'm putting a ferry with a few hundred cars on it. Say there's 100 cars going on, and I roughly think most cars are about 2,353 kilograms. Someone's told me that's the average mass for a car. Well, do I need to use that in a calculation? And we'll come back to this one in a minute when we come on to the calculations. So, the sorts of things we're talking about are distance to the moon. Most people don't need to know exactly the distance to the moon, that it's 363,104 kilometres at its apogee, the closest, and at perigee, the furthest, is 405,696 kilometres away. Even in conversation, you wouldn't use those, even among people who work in astronomy. What they're likely to say is they'll probably talk, when you're talking these size numbers, they might talk to the nearest 1,000. So to the nearest 1,000, we look down to the thousands place, which is that 3. Look at the next digit, the 1. What does the 1 say? It says round up, round down. So to the nearest 1,000, the lower distance, the apogee, is 3,600. I want to know about the 3, so it's 3. But this 104 kilometres, it's not important apart from making sure it's about the right size. Look at the next one, the distance to the moon at perigee, the maximum. Again, in conversation, you're likely to use three significant figure, these first 3 digits, or the nearest 1,000, and we have 40, and then I want to know that number, so I look at the 6. 6 was on the plus side of the 5, so you may have seen diagrams like these, where 5's in the middle, and you go down to the nearest 0 that way. So if you're less than 5, you go that way. If you are 5, you go up towards the next one, which is add 1 to the next height. Okay, so you separate based upon the 5. That's typical, but you do need to consider the situation. Here, the 6 says, I'm on this side, raise up. So it goes up. And it doesn't matter about the 9. We don't worry about the 9 and the 6. You only worry about that one digit. So this now says 406,000 kilometres. Now that's rounding to the nearest 1,000. There is another way I could actually describe this, and it's a slightly different conversation as we go through. So let's make a copy. Oh, so that's the wrong colour completely. Let's make a copy and go 363,104. And what most people actually talk is something called significant figures. So we're going to measure this one to what's called 2 sig fig. This is a decimal value. And to do 2 significant figures, it says the only numbers I'm going to quote that aren't zeros are the first 2, where the first one of these is not a 0. So this has to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This one could be 0. Depends on the circumstances. So I want to know the 6. I look at the 3. 3 says round down. So I've got 3, 6, and make the number right. So to 2 significant figures, the distance to the moon is 360,000 kilometres. Up to, and do the same thing on the other one. So we got 405, 696 kilometres. Again, I want to go 2 significant figures, so I want the 4 and that 0. The 0 is important, but the 5 is only needed to decide do I go up or down. That 0 is needed for my number. So the 5 says round up. I ignore the 696. Don't need to know about them at all. And I get 410,000, correct it for the size, kilometres. So these are the sorts of numbers that people use in normal life. They don't always give everything to the most accurate value. So that's significant figures. These are decimal places. So we'll just do a couple of quick examples. And let's go for white again. So a couple of examples with a fairly large number. Let's go for 32.35, and it doesn't matter what it is. We could be talking, let's not do it 5.7, so we could be talking about money. So rounding appropriately. Most calculations, so generally money, if we're doing an accurate calculation, we always go to 2 decimal places. So let's round this to 2 decimal places. I want to know everything up to this, including this 5, so we'll write the rest of it out. So it's the 2 decimal places, it's 327,030. And then this 5, I look at the 7 says round up. So that's 36 cents. That's why we use decimal places, is we've got the dollar part and the cents part. That's why 2 decimal places is important. And that's cents. Euros and cents. Pounds sterling and pence. There's ruble and is it the kopeck is the smaller one. If you're doing accurate answers, 2 decimal places for money. Imagine we're talking about rough numbers and we're talking to our friend. So let's see what it would be for 2 significant figures. So I only worry about the first 2 digits that aren't 0, so we've got a 3. I worry about the 2, but I have a look at the next place. What does that 7 say? Well, the 7 says round up. So the 7 said round up. 3, 2, 7. Doesn't matter what the other places are. I just want to know what the 7 was, and I need to know what happens to the 2. So round that goes to 3, 3. This is 33 is nowhere near 327, so we want 300, make it 330. So if I was talking to my friend would say, I've earned about $330. My paycheck would probably say, I've earned $327.36. It's not necessary to show the 00 cents on these. So that's significant figures, decimal places. There's a few simple ones. If you need more help, do contact me along the way. The reason for this simple calculation here is to do with when we do calculations. So estimating. Now, these are approximate answers. We knew what the actual answer was, but we've made it clearer, or we're communicating in a level that allows people to understand the information they need to know. So this started with an accurate answer, and then has given, we're now giving an accurate answer here. We knew the exact accurate answer, and then we've actually done an approximation to give a number that somebody else needs. Estimating is you do the calculation upon approximate answers. Estimating is about using a method to give a number you know is about right, but it's not going to be quite as right as these normally. So let's have a quick look at estimating. Actually, I'll make another video for estimating. We'll stop there.